Good evening. I'd like to call the village board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, March 20th, 2018 to order with roll call, please.
Kostler,
Here.
Kraus,
Here.
Cavelli. Here. Betts.
Here.
McAlpine. Here. Weinhammer.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just as a point of reference, Courtney is going to join us on the dais calling roll and stuff until we rectify the, just so it takes it away from Jake so he can concentrate on what he's doing. She's just going to call the roll for us for the time being. So Courtney works with us in our Public Works Department. She actually runs the show down there, so. Okay. We'll now move to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I have not had anybody turn anything in. Is there anybody who would like to address the village board? Okay, we'll go ahead and close open forum. I have two things on my report tonight. These are always fun, the employee recognition. I have Josh Victor, who has been with our police department for 10 years. Josh, if you can meet me up front here, that would be awesome. Josh Victor has been with the police department for 10 years. I remember when he was somewhat of a rookie back when I was the village board. It's awesome to see the accomplishments this man has made in his tenure. If I'm stealing your thunder, Chief,
Feel free. I'll fill in.
but you know, it's nice to witness the growth of a professional officer in our community. Josh, right now, his main focus is being our school resource officer at Cary Grove High School. And as most of you will know, we had an incident there that he took control over and led the investigation to kind of calm the nerves of the community and was able to find out what exactly happened and justice will prevail. But we are thrilled that you're part of our organization. It's great to see you blossoming in your career, and we're hoping you're here for years to come. I'll turn it over to the chief.
I didn't say, Josh has served as a patrol officer and a detective. Currently, he's a detective. He's also on the accident investigation team, and they were just out doing some training today. And he's next on the sergeant's list, so we're planning on rotating his position with the school as a school resource officer back to the road, so he's prepared to be a sergeant if and when the time comes when he gets promoted.
So we have a little token appreciation. I mean, it's little. So it's just nice to be remembered for the years of service. So Josh, thank you. I have one more, Maria Johnson, the shining face of customer service up at the front office. Maria is always a pleasure to have around. She's always smiling and greets everybody with such joy and dignity at the front desk. And it's great when you have somebody with that type of a personality greeting your residents and people that come in. Sometimes they're a little upset about something, but she has a way of kind of working her magic and calming the situation down and channeling them into the right department that they need to talk to. So it's been great. Maria's been here 10 years. She started out in our police department, in records department, and then she made the transition over to Village Hall a few years ago, and actually since I've been mayor, so about 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, so it's great to have, you know, we have a really great working relationship up in our front office, and everybody gets along, and everybody helps each other out. Sue Green over here kind of heads up the show in our front office there too, and administration. So she's always good to have around. So it's wonderful having a wonderful employee like you. So thank you very much. Again, small token of our appreciation. Next is trustee reports. No one has sent in anything, so we'll pass that by. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 5 and 7 through 9.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Kostler,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Cavelli. Yes. Betts.
Yes.
McAlpine. Yes.
Thank you. And I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance amending Village Ordinance Title 5, Business Taxes, Licenses, and Regulations, Chapter 5.28, Solicitor Section 5.28.090, Time Limit on Soliciting.
So moved.
Second.
There was some discussion with regarding the time. I think trustee McAlpine had asked for this to be
I did.
removed and discussed, so I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. I wanted to just, I wanted to reach out to the community when this came up. I wasn't sure at the last meeting from the committee of the whole situation. And I'm certainly open to making some changes and amending it. But I also want to be very cognizant of our businesses and what their business plans are and not hampering them at all. And I'm worried sometimes that we might be taking a step to overreach a little bit. At 5 o'clock, I spoke to about 6 different business owners. Some of them are brand new to our area, some of them that are not. And one of them in particular had mentioned that they had never gotten a solicitor's license, but this year they really wanted to do that. And when I asked them about the time limit, they thought that they'd be more apt to be doing this between 4 and 7, simply because that's when people are at home. And if their goal is to actually door knock and meet people, they're not going to be meeting anyone because no one's, you have a lot of double income households where someone's not home. So I was concerned about that. In addition to that, I did a little checking, and it's my understanding that if we make this 5 o'clock, we can't make an exception. So if you have scouts or kids that want to do a lawn mowing business or a babysitting business and want to go door knock a little bit after those hours, that's not possible. And it just so happens that last night, when I got home, I saw this on my table, and I asked, where did this come from? And I was told that the Cary Grove baseball team was out selling these. So I asked when the person came through, and I was told that they came through around 7:15 last night. So they would not be able to do that. When I asked why they came at that time, I was told that it was because they had practiced until 6 o'clock at night. So by the time they get home, get showered, or if they've got to do anything, it's going to be a little bit later. So I 100% respect that there are many, many residents that don't like solicitors. They just don't like it, and I respect that and I understand that. But I also think that the ordinance was really set up to empower people. And residents then have that opportunity to put up a no solicitor sign. That's their opportunity to say, I do not want solicitors here. And we want to give them as much authority as they can have. I don't want to overstep any boundaries that we have here. The other thing is that we've not had any, to my knowledge, we're not having any problems with this. It's not like we're having a bunch of rash of soliciting issues coming up. And then on a personal level, I can just say that I've lived in this community for over 30 years. I've never had a no solicitor sign on my door, so that means anyone that wants to solicit can. And I've never found it to be burdensome. There are times that, sometimes someone will ring the door right in the middle of dinner, and perhaps you take the option of, hey, I'm not going to answer the door. I mean, that's what, people used to do. You pick up the phone, you don't answer the door, you have that option available. But we've actually, from my own personal experience, we sometimes hired some people from that. I know our person that does our pest treatments around, we have a couple times a year, we just have the foundation done. We got that by somebody walking, by pounding the pavement that came to our home. I've also used someone that we garnered from that experience on roofing issues. After a bad storm, we knew that our roof didn't need to be replaced, but we knew some shingles needed to be replaced, and we garnered that person from someone that was soliciting. So I just don't want to be in a position that we hamper someone's ability to grow their business if that's part of their business plan. I don't think that it's our job as trustees to say, we dictate how you do your business. Again, I talked to basically everyone on the board, communicated in some manner with everyone just to let them know what my thoughts were on it. And perhaps my thought would be, if we did it something where we made it so that the ordinance is something that we limit it during certain times of the year when it's dark out, certain times of the year by 4:30, 5 o'clock, it's pitch black out. You don't want necessarily someone roaming through your neighborhood that you don't know at that time of night. So perhaps we could compromise and come up with something that can meet those needs that says, maybe during the December through, February, we make it 5 o'clock. And then maybe other times during the year, we allow it to be a little bit later when it's light out still. I just think it's something that we need to pursue, and we need to be cognizant of our businesses that come to town, that if they want to go in and ring doorbells and meet people, that they should have those opportunities. And if they're working during the day, the time that they're going to do that is typically between that 4 and 7 at night. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I agree with Ellen with that. I like that idea of having time during the winter time to go to 5 o'clock. And then throughout the March through November to have it like till 7. I have no problem with
And
that.
it's still limiting, it's still decreasing some of the time a bit too, but
Well, I like what's being presented tonight, till 5 PM. We had a solicitor ordinance presented to us not too long ago. And it was much more restrictive. There was background checks, there was fees associated with it. And to me, I voted yes for that, and that was voted down. This, to me, is a compromise with that. So I don't think I've ever talked to a single resident that said, yeah, I love solicitors that come to my door. I've had just the opposite experience. And so I think 5 o'clock is really good. I do. And if I guarantee if our residents were polled, and I'd be more than willing to do a poll for the residents, I think it would be overwhelmingly in favor of a 5 o'clock time. I would be shocked. I would be absolutely stunned if it were. Please allow them to come later when I'm eating dinner, when I'm getting the kids to bed, when I'm trying to give my kids a bath. That's just my opinion.
How about this side?
I've spoken to a few people, and they seem to like the 5 o'clock. I can see the compromise that's trying to be made here tonight, but as Kim, you just pointed out, we did have a much more restrictive one that we were looking at, and now we're down to the 5 o'clock. I'm a little bit torn. I think I would stay with the 5 o'clock time for year round.
So no changing it during the winter months?
I would stay
to
with
coincide-
what's before us tonight.
Trustee Costler?
I'm with Trustee Cavelli on this. I think it's very reasonable to be 5 PM cutoff time, and I don't really see how it hampers any business in the community. Personally, I haven't had any local business knock on my door. Every business that knocks on my door has been from outside of the village of Cary. So I'm struggling with the stance that this is hurting our local businesses, and I would never stand for that. But yeah, I think 5 o'clock is a reasonable hour, and after that, it's time that most people don't want solicitors at their door.
And just to clarify, this doesn't stop somebody from hanging something on your doorknob or putting it on your, step. I mean, I've had people drive by and there's a little stone wrapped up in the paper and thrown on my driveway. Would this prohibit people from doing that, beyond 5 o'clock?
yeah.
Technically,
Yeah.
yes, because there's a portion of our definition that indicates that if you use some type of flyer or literature left on the residential door or porch to solicit a sale of something, then that falls within this ordinance.
Well, and just to reiterate, I did talk to some brand-new businesses in our community that said that they were planning on getting solicitor's licenses. I talked to insurance agent, I talked to real estate agent that said that based on the inventory being so low, that they felt like, hey, they got to go knock on doors to try and build up inventory. So those are our recent calls within the last week here that I've made, that I've spoken to some of our local businesses. So that's kind of what's propelled me to say that I think we need to be cognizant and try and compromise on this.
Well, and the other thing I struggle with is if I'm looking for those services, I'm certainly going to get them right away. I'm not going to wait for somebody to come to my door if I'm looking for a real estate agent, insurance, roofers, bugs, whatever. And I want to do my research on these people, and I'd be worried of somebody scamming me at my door. So I just feel very strongly, I think this is a fair compromise compared to what we had before, which I actually liked better, but I'm willing to accept this one.
For my 2 cents for what it's worth, because I'm going to need to vote on this tonight. What if we compromise, and would you be willing to amend it to make it 6 o'clock, trustee McAlpine?
Sure, I will compromise. I just want to give people that ability after at least 5 o'clock, at least for a little while, because that's when a lot of people are getting off of work and getting home. So I just want to be cognizant of some of these new people that joined our opened offices here. Some people in particular that mentioned that this is something that they have in their business plan. And again, I don't think, are we having problems with it?
I will tell you that we do not proactively seek out people violating the solicitor ordinance. It's usually a reactive situation where someone calls us
Right.
and we respond. So that's really, the enforcement stance that
Sure.
we take on this.
Would you two be willing to compromise at 6 o'clock, meet in the middle?
Like the 5. Like I said, I feel like this is the compromise compared to that much more comprehensive, I want to say, ordinance that we had before us not too long ago. I mean, that was, again, I thought that was great.
Jeff, would you be willing to go to 6 o'clock, kind of meet in the middle?
I like the 5 o'clock too. I think, like you said, it's something that if somebody complains, you're kind of going after them. If somebody's going around hanging a door hanger after 5 o'clock, I wouldn't complain, so.
I think if we're going to amend, we need a motion to amend in a second, so we can't really discuss that unless that happens. So we're stuck at 5.
All right, so I didn't get a second for the amended motion. I didn't call for that either.
Is there an actual motion to amend?
No.
We
Kim
just
second.
discussed.
We'd need that.
I moved the motion, Kim seconded.
Well, that just, we
Right, that's
brought
discuss
it to discuss it.
Well, I will make a motion to amend it to 6 o'clock during March through November, and then 5 o'clock from December through March.
I second.
We have a motion, roll call on that?
McAlpine,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Cavelli,
No,
Kraus,
No,
Costler,
No.
Okay, that fails.
That fails. Reverts back to the original motion of 9 to 5. Roll call, please.
McAlpine,
No.
Betts,
No.
Cavelli,
yes.
Kraus,
yes,
Costler,
Yes.
It's a 3-2, so the mayor can vote. It needs 4 for an ordinance, so I'm going to call the mayor.
Mayor Koenig.
I wish there was a little bit more of a compromise, but I'd be willing to go to 6 o'clock, so I'm going to say no.
That fails.
That fails as well. So it reverts back to the original ordinance that we have.
Yep.
Now, I will entertain a motion to approve an appointment of Kleinthorpe Jenkins LTD as village attorney.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Earlier this year, the village went out for bid for our legal services. We have retained Ansel Glink for the last 2.5 years as our interim attorney since our previous village council was appointed to a judge. So at that time, Ansel Glink stepped in for us and has served us until this time here. We had a policy that the board approved that we took applications. We had about 16, 17 attorneys firms applied to the Village of Cary. In regards with this final selection, we tasked the village board or the village staff, department heads to whittle it down to the top 6 attorneys, and they interviewed the top 6 attorneys. And they made the recommendation for the village to bring forth 3 of their top choices that would represent the Village of Cary, and that was all done with the board's approval. We had a series of interviews one evening with the entire board present, and we had an interview process. And every trustee was able to ask questions. I had asked them prior to the interviews to notify us of some questions that they would like to have thrown in for the questions and answers, so everybody would have a shot at asking some questions. We compiled the list of questions, and we assigned various questions to each individual trustee to ask. We asked every attorney's firm the exact same questions in the exact same order by the exact same trustee to try to keep this as fair as possible. I understand that there's some trustees, or a trustee in fact, that has some issues with mayoral appointments, but the state statute under my role as mayor, I have the job of appointing various department heads, police commissions, ZPA, police pension board, as well as our village attorney. And through this process, we interviewed the three top attorneys firms, and through the whittling it down and reading the feedback that I had through from the feedback from the trustees, I had made a determination to make the recommendation to try to bridge the gap, because I had a series of trustees that had some issues with our current council due to an opinion that was rendered that there's really no resolve to right now, so we really don't have a final opinion on that. But in light of moving forward in a positive, proactive way, I made the recommendation to appoint Kleinthorpe Jenkins to our village attorney, and that's what we have before us this evening. But I also had a trustee, Trustee Weinhammer, who was not here today. She had sent me a lengthy email that I said that I would address this evening at the village board, and she responded to me that she appreciated that and thanked me for doing this. So I'm going to kind of chronologically go through her statements and kind of give you the background on that. So that's where we're going to go. This is Trustee Jennifer Weinhammer. Since I was unable to attend the village board meeting tonight, I want to share some thoughts with you pertaining to the meeting. The attorney appointment is up for vote. Here are my thoughts. Mayor, the day after the interview process, I called and spoke to you about Addison Britz. At that time, they were high on your list as we interviewed 3. With regard to your comment of having great respect for Ansel Blink, I disagree, as they had given us bad legal advice regarding a conflict of interest vote. As I mentioned before, there was no resolve to that. The state's attorney chose not to pursue it, so there's really no decision one way or another, so I disagree with that. They were to be our interim law firm, which lasted much longer than any of the trustees had desired. The previous board had asked repeatedly to go out for a bid on attorneys. I cannot agree that Ansel Glink be retained for any reason. We had many different issues, legal issues, that we were deeply involved with developments and things that were going on, and it wouldn't make good sense for the village to change our attorneys at that given time. So we're kind of in a lull right now. The board had asked to do this, and we embarked on this situation. So that's where we are now. She goes on. I reached out to Addison Britz yesterday, and even though John Kelly was out of the office, their partner took my call and was very happy to answer my questions. I spoke with this attorney, who stated their hourly rate could be negotiable. We had a public bid opening where we invited various attorneys to bid on our legal services and give us specific costs for various things. I would find that highly unethical to ask an attorney to amend their pricing after the fact. I just don't think that that is a professional way to handle that, and that could be viewed as not a good thing for a village government to enter into. So it's very fair. People gave their best shots. I bid jobs every day of my life. You win some, you lose some. It's all there in black and white. This attorney also stated they specialize in zoning, land use, annexation codes, etc. They stated their firm has extensive experience with many communities pertaining to land use. During the interview process, they had stated that their areas of expertise was human resources and personnel. And we are, the way I look at it, we are in desperate need of counsel, which I think that a majority of the board would agree that we have a lot of great opportunities ahead of us that involve land use, zoning, and that, for instance, the Salke property, we've got several parcels that are still available. We've got wonderful annexation opportunities. We have the Route 31 development opportunities. We have the Meyer material opportunities that we have here. These are all land use, and we need solid representation when it comes to that. So that's my answer to her. So looking forward to what we really need. We don't really have a lot of personnel-related issues. And so, yeah, you know, you can go through the interview process and you take down copious notes. And the one thing that most everybody wrote down that I got, they said that they were an HR firm. He also stated, one of their clients in Illinois Department of Transportation, they deal with annexation all the time and had several trials pertaining to that. Addison Britz also has great all-around experience as well as a seasoned staff. It is my opinion that the mayor or staff should have reached out to Addison Britz to negotiate pricing. Again, I stated that would be inappropriate and unprofessional for us to do that, for them to amend a public bid to try to get a better price when we've already served a process. This shows firms were all not researched equally. In fact, they were. We interviewed them all at the same time. We asked the exact same questions. They had equal opportunity to respond to us. I followed up with references, talking with staff, and that we did research everybody equally. I would have also thought one of you would have followed up on their specialties since this attorney offered to send additional information. We asked for it. Should we ask for it? Again, everybody had the same opportunity to represent themselves equally at the same time. It was indicated that Kleinthorpe Jenkins was staff's top pick. However, when I spoke to Jake, he had said staff would be happy to work with all three firms. Yes, Jake did say that. He would be happy. There are staff. But I asked him from a staff perspective, being the village administrator, working with the department heads, who do you think would be the best fit for the village of Cary? And he had said Kleinthorpe Jenkins. My question is if we go through with what staff recommended, what is the purpose of having the trustees interview the attorneys? I think that having the staff involved, because they use our attorneys 95% of the time. You know, I have very little, I do have some communication with our attorneys on various things, but typically the board doesn't have outside work with the attorneys outside our village board meetings. So our village attorneys interact with our department heads pretty much on a daily basis. So it's who they're comfortable with and who they feel is going to be the best to get us to that next level that we are trying to obtain as a board.
Mark, can I just ask you a question? You stated that you spoke with trustee Weinhammer, and she's okay with you going through this point by point without her here to counter your discussion?
I told her I was going to be addressing all of her concerns at the board meeting tonight, and she thanked me and she appreciated that. I'm just answering. I mean, I'm just answering.
I asked if we could possibly table this and go into executive session, and you said, no, you're not going to be bullied, you're not going to be slandered. For somebody that wants to try to unite this board, you're doing a good job.
Well, I understand your frustration, Trustee Kraus, but we have this on our agenda tonight. She sent this out, and she approved me going through this to discuss. And I feel that's only, pardon me?
Continue.
With regards to the comment about having two attorneys at a board meeting, this has never been done, and I did not see this as being needed now. I was offended by when the mayor spoke about continuing with a female attorney and that having a female attorney would bring a sense of balance. I believe one should choose the best qualified candidate, and the gender has nothing to do with it. I agree. It's just a nice compliment to our village board to bring a couple different perspectives. I think that for continuity's sake, having a couple of attorneys attending each meeting that doesn't cost us any more money than we have is a good thing.
But you made that point, but Addison Britz also offered to do that with us.
Thank you. She continues on, I find it repulsive that the mayor would ask trustees to abstain from voting if they do not vote for his choice, Kleinthorpe Jenkins. The mayor cannot tell the trustees who to vote for and cannot tell the trustees to abstain from a vote. I have not asked anybody to abstain, or I've not told anybody who to vote for. I merely had made a comment that if you're not comfortable voting for it, then you can't abstain. It's just an option. I didn't say anybody had to vote any particular way. We were voted on by the citizens of Cary for a reason, not to be dictated by an individual. We are free to voice our thoughts and our opinions. What I think bothered me the most is the mayor's comment that if I do not appoint Klein Thorpe Jenkins, I will retain Ansel Glink. I never said that. I never said that at all. I merely said that if we don't have the support to move forward with this, I can't bring it forward to move forward. So we'll have to bring it back at a later date. That's what I said. I didn't say we were doing anything in particular. That sounds like she said it sounds like a threat to her in a certain way. One may think that the mayor has already promised the position to Klein Thorpe Jenkins. I've had no conversation with them regarding this. I did not know them prior to this whole process. So no, I did not make any promises. And the email goes on with a couple of other things that are not on our agenda, so I can't talk about that right now. But that's what her votes. And I'm sorry, Jeff, if you don't like it, but I let her know that I was going to be talking about this. And had she said, no, don't talk about it, I would not talk about it. But, you know, I'd be more than happy to hear her rebuttal to these things. So, you know, we're trying to move forward. We have 3 top-notch attorneys that we interviewed at the very end. All 3 would represent the village of Cary very well. If anybody else has any questions,
I have a
please let me
comment.
know.
I have a
I would
comment.
just add before we get into village board questions here, before you this evening too is an engagement letter from Klein Thorpe Jenkins. So ultimately what this does is pull out the information from the RFP, their submittal, included an engagement letter, so it's pretty straightforward here of what we'd be considering. There isn't anything that's different based on what was submitted from the RFP to what's in the engagement letter. So village staff is happy to answer any questions about the process here. Essentially, you know, we had 3 great law firms and we've got to pick one. Not an easy decision here. Ansel Glink has served the village well, and staff has recommended Klein Thorpe Jenkins here, and that is the firm that the mayor is presenting this evening.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment that I'm a little shocked to hear that a trustee reached out to someone that had presented a bid before us. I think that could be, people could look at that as being corrupt. They could look at it as if we're trying to do bid tampering or bid rigging or whatever you want to call it. We just can't do stuff like that. And I thought we've all gone through training and know that the chain of command is that we are to go to, if we had a question like that, we are to go to Jake, and he would contact the attorney and do that. I just don't want us to get into a situation where people think we're doing something that is unethical and unprofessional and could reflect poorly upon us. I'm not saying that was her intention. I'm just saying that I think that could be perceived that way, and that's very concerning to me. The other thing that's concerning to me is that one of the questions when we interviewed was about how is an attorney's firm going to handle conflict within a board. So if board have disagreements or they don't agree with your recommendations as an attorney, you know, what do you do with that? And I went back and I looked at my notes because I made copies of my notes that I handed in for our rating schedule to the mayor. And on Addison Bridge, one of the things that they specifically talked about is, hey, if you had a conflict like that and a trustee tried to contact us, we would not talk with that trustee. We would refer it back to the village administrator because we're not going to get in the middle of something like that. So that concerns me that they would start relaying information like that to one of our trustees that should be going directly through our village administrator. So I just, again, I'm not saying that was anyone's intention. I'm just saying perception could come across and it could really reflect poorly on us.
Well, since we're having this discussion and trustee Weinhammer's not here to say what exactly happened and all we have is the email, I mean, I guess, does she have further information? Did she identify herself as a trustee or did she just call as a citizen? I have no idea. I can't answer those questions. And I don't know if maybe she needs to be present for the vote so we have all the answers for that. if I had to guess, and I don't want to guess, but if I had to guess, she probably just didn't have the answers. And so that's probably why she went out there to try and find her answers, trying to do her own homework. But again, she's not here to answer any of these questions right now.
We tried answering some of these questions. I've been available, Jake's been available to get some of these questions that are answered. Any way you go on these things, somebody's not going to be happy. We have differences of opinion on various things. We need to move forward with somebody. We went through the process. Through the process, it was determined that this would be a good fit. I have great confidence in this new firm leading us to the new areas that we need to do and to accomplish the great things that this board would like to set sail on. So I'm asking for the consideration to appoint Klein Thorpe Jenkins as our village attorney. So anybody else has any other questions?
I don't have questions. I don't understand the implications or the statements being made against Trustee Weinhammer when she isn't here. I don't think that does anything to help this board in the future, and it further divides us. It's disappointing. I think that the way this whole thing was handled has been a major thorn in the side of this board for the last 3 weeks, and we'll see where the vote goes. But I don't like this has just been too much conflict within this board when some people try to say that they're trying to bring us together, and that's just not the case.
Well, let's go into that a little bit more, Trustee Kostler. What about the process were you not comfortable with?
I'm not comfortable with waiting 3 weeks to hear who we're going to appoint after we turned in and made our opinions be known to Jake as to who we wanted appointed. Why did it broil for 3.5 weeks?
I was doing some reference checking, talking with staff, talking with department heads,
Well,
talking with individual trustees.
And I get that. And Mark, this isn't I'm not attacking you, okay? All I'm saying is that there are accusations against Trustee Weinhammer, and I don't know if what she did was, improper. I think she was reaching out to get information. And I think, she's trying to do a really good job as a trustee. And it's sad that she's being attacked in this manner.
I don't think anybody's attacking her. I let her know. Would you like to see her response to the email? I let her know I would be addressing each one of these things at the meeting tonight. And she said, thank you. I appreciate that. So I would do her a great disservice had I not addressed this and just brushed this under the carpet.
But I don't think she was going to assume that by those being addressed that there's going to be some questions of her ethics with her getting the information. So had she had known that, I can't imagine that would have been her response. So that's disappointing. And I do think that causes divide. I like this attorney firm. I like number 2. I also like number 3. And I did like the comment number 3 made, is that they wouldn't give just one person information, they'd give everyone the information. So I struggle with this because it's like I feel like half the board wants one, another half the board wants another. And no matter where this goes, it will inevitably just
Be a conflict.
be a conflict.
Exactly, and it's hard. It's very hard to do that. These are appointments that I've involved the village board in. I'm trying to. Everybody had the same opportunity to ask questions. Everybody was present for the same interview session. They had ample opportunity to get a hold of myself or Jake to ask additional questions. And we couldn't have been any more thorough than this. And I thank staff for whittling it down to where we are today. And I appreciate that. But, we do have to move forward on a positive note. We just need to put something like this behind us and work towards the next thing. And we can address some of these other concerns. But the part of the thing is that we have to be able to openly communicate with each other all the time, regardless of who we are or what our stance is. Have open dialogue. I encourage that. I reach out to each and every one of you about different things, and some respond, some don't. And if we want to move forward in a positive, effective way, we need to have open dialogue. We're always not going to agree, But we can always agree that we're moving the village forward. That's what we need to agree on, and in a positive, effective way that promotes the growth that we're looking for.
And I would add to that and say open dialogue includes putting things in writing and emails and not just having conversations, private conversations.
Okay, that's something that we could work on. Is there any other comments? Courtney, roll call, please.
Betts,
Yes?
Cavelli,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Kraus,
No.
Costler,
No.
Mayor.
Yes. Thank you. Department head updates, please.
Mayor, Village Board, just had one quick update here. Certainly appreciate your time on Saturday for the budget process. We're working right now to finalize the budget, make any minor tweaks that we need to make. We will be bringing forward the budget for the Village Board's consideration at the April 3rd meeting. Excuse me. Thank you again for your time, and please see me if you have any further questions about the budget. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Department head reports. Chief, anything? Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick updates. As we discussed during the budget workshop, one of the items that we had sought your feedback on was the cemetery fence removal. This week, I plan to have staff remove the existing fence, given its condition and following that accident that occurred. And what our plan is to do is to, once it's removed, monitor the pedestrian situation, just to ensure that there's not evidence and issues with the cut-throughs that may or may not occur through the cemetery itself, litter and so forth. And then also give the board and staff a chance to absorb the net effect aesthetically on the corridor and on the cemetery itself. And from there, then we can decide as a group if we want to move forward with either the first option, which was a partial restoration of the fence and some shrubbery, leave it as is, which we'll be able to test out and see in person, or possibly a last option, just replace the fence section along First Street, just the one portion of the roadway. We're getting, I have received some cost estimates for that as well as for the individual pieces. So we'll be able to move forward with the most cost-effective manner possible, but testing first the best case scenario from a dollars and cents standpoint, which would be full removal. And if there's any feedback on that,
We're going
get it going.
to leave the arch, so the arch is still
That's what
going
I
to.
was just going to ask
Yep.
about it. That'd be possible to leave that up there.
Yep, that's still going to remain. It's just the fence. We'll follow up with the village board here, just so you know when the fence is down, so you can take a drive past and look at it. It's going to be a little bit different, just from a visual standpoint there, but like Director Morimoto said, we'll look at it from an aesthetic standpoint and see if there's any cut-through traffic, things of that nature that were brought up during the budget meeting.
Possibly instead of putting the full fence across the front, maybe we'd keep the arch and maybe two of the original pieces of the fence. I know Tom Decker was the one that originally donated that to the village, and that when about 6 years ago when I first got on the board, it was brought up that we were going to get rid of the fence, and I reached out to the Historical Society, but I never heard anything back from them. So I think this is where we're at now, and it does need to be removed and replaced.
Yeah, we could follow up even too with two new pieces. We've been talking about that internally here that are right next to where the arch is as well. So we'll see what it looks like once we have everything removed and circle back with the village board.
And once it's removed, we'll also have a better opportunity to more fully inspect the integrity of each piece to see if there is anything that
That's
can be
what I was
salvaged.
thinking, yeah.
So I will make a point to make sure they're careful with the removal. And in case you see it, we do have an opportunity and window in our work plan, so it might happen as early as tomorrow, late morning. Second update for our spring cleanup, which we reported on previously. It's going to be on 2 different Saturdays, May 5th for half the village and May 12th, the following Saturday for the other half. We will be adding additional information with our website posting and with the outreach that Advanced Disposal will do ahead of time. We're going to advise residents that they'll be free to put their materials out up to 1 week prior to their scheduled weekend. So if your pickup day is Saturday the 5th, then you can have your stuff out as early as Saturday, I believe it's the 28th of April. And then obviously starting the 5th, and then it'll be picked up on the 12th for the other half of town. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eric.
Brian, nothing? Any future agenda items and discussion by the village board? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Just a couple minutes and we'll reboot for